Hi, it's Tash from Foxes and Brown Bears Tarot, and this week I've been looking at some of the list of videos that I plan to make since I'm on school holidays, and I thought, well, you know what, let's see if I can get a couple on the go. And I realized that I had never made a video that I'd planned to make a couple months ago. And this is a VR to Candy Soul and Soil's Dating the Tarot 2020. And the idea of this was looking at the decks that you purchased or used in 2020 that kind of weren't necessarily favorites, but could be characterized as a variety of different date types. And so I thought this was really cool. And even though, the ship has sailed, really, I thought, you know what, I've actually planned this and it is such a cool tag. And I thought, what the heck, I'm just gonna do it anyway. And so, let's begin. So the first category was the Cheapskate Date. So this was who did you date because they were cheap as chips and what was the outcome. Okay, and so in terms of what I purchased last year, that was actually really, really cheap in comparison to most decks, was the Tarot of the Divine by Yoshi Yoshitani. And this is a really cool deck that looks at different sort of folk tales and fairy tales from around the world. And I thought, okay, this looked really cool. And I only saw some of the images and I thought, you know what, I might actually like this. I like fairy tales anyway. And it's so cheap, I'm just going to buy it. And this was one of the few decks I've actually pre-ordered because of that. Then when I received it, it was this really cool little box. And it came with this gorgeous full color book, which was so cool. And then I pulled out the cards. And they're amazing. The backs are gorgeous. It's a nice chunky deck. And they are beautiful linen cards. These are amazing. I don't have a lot of linen cards. And I was absolutely astounded at this deck. I kind of went on this date, I guess, because it was cheap in a sense. I mean, yes, it was attractive too. We have to have standards, right? But I was amazed. This deck blew me away. And even though it was cheap, boy, it was deep. And I love it. I absolutely adore this deck. And it is, one of my favorite dates of 2020. And just the stories are beautiful. And I actually bought the big companion book that doesn't have every single one, but it has the majority of them. And they're just so beautiful when once you start reading the stories, understanding the story behind each of the cards, it really helps to add such depth to this deck. And having said that, in a lot of ways, this deck can be read without knowing the stories. But I think when you spend some time with it and really get to know what's going on, it just adds such depth to it. And so, this was definitely one of those decks that I am so happy I bought, even though it was cheap as chips. All right. So, the second category is the slow burner date. So this is the one that you weren't sure about on the meeting, but over time you suspect it's turning to love. And for me, this is the Muse Tarot by Chrysalis. I bought this sort of on a whim, and then when it arrived, it didn't automatically gel with me. I mean, the box is beautiful. The cardstock's lovely. Love the backs. And I mean, the artwork is so beautifully done, right? But when I first started looking at it, I thought, oh, yeah, I don't know if this is my aesthetic, actually. And I don't know, it didn't immediately gel with me. And I thought, yeah, it's pretty, but you know what? This might just be a single date, right? But over time, I have found that this deck is so beautiful and so deep. And this is mainly because I kind of forced myself into the second date, and I spent a couple weeks working with this. Well, actually, I usually work for a deck for 1 week, and I pulled it out and I started doing my daily readings with it. And it astounded me. Like, the readings were so accurate, so deep, so beautiful. And I actually ended up using this for 2 weeks because I didn't want to put it away. I love this. And since then, you know, I actually think I am falling in love with this. This is definitely becoming one of my favorites. And the artwork just grows on me and grows on me. And I see new things in it all the time. And weirdly enough, in some ways, it's even surpassing the Lightseer's Tarot, which has always been one of my favorites. I gelled with that deck the second I opened it. I don't know, there's just something about it that just speaks to my soul, and I absolutely adore it, and I'm so glad I gave it a second chance. So that's my slow burner date. All right, so the third category then is the blind date. And the blind date is looking at, you know, we're impulsive humans and sometimes we just rush in. So who did you date without looking or thinking? For me, this was an easy one. It was actually the Magical Nordic Tarot by Jane Wallace. I saw this deck on Amazon and I love the colors. The box looked beautiful. And then when it showed a few of the cards, so it showed some of these key, like, you know, the World, the Chariot, the Hanged Man, the Wheel of Fortune, the Moon. It did show also some of the court cards, and I thought, you know what, I love this. This is so beautiful. Like, why would I not want this artwork? And so I just purchased it. And then when I received it, I was a little bit shocked because, I mean, the artwork is indeed beautiful. And if you see, like, the colors are just amazing, right? And some of these cards are just some of my favorites of all time. And particularly the, I'll just show you some more of the, like, look at these. Look at the mages. The mages are divine, right? I mean, look at the lovers. And then I kind of got into it and realized that the minors weren't quite the same. And in fact, what they are is pippish. Very pippish and very samey. So for example, here you see the 7 of Cups, 8 of Cups, 9 of Cups, 10 of Cups. They're all pretty much the same, and they're not even artistic. And they do change the suits up. So there you see the 4 of Wands, 5 of Wands, 6, 7 of Wands, the 8 of Wands. Yeah, I don't love them. And yeah, and I love the colors still, but I just think even if they'd done something artistic with the symbols, it would have been a little bit better. But I will have to say I was disappointed, really disappointed with the pips. But having said that, the mages are so beautiful. So I think this is going to be I'm going to use this deck the way I see fit. And I actually think I'm going to separate out the mages. And I'm going to use it as a mages only deck. And potentially also use the courts. I think that could be quite interesting in terms of major energies. and then having different energies of different types of people. And I'm going to see how that works, because I have to say this deck is an example of your typical online date where the images are beautiful and they show you all the best parts of themselves, but then when you start digging in, they disappoint somewhat. And in hindsight, having looked at the box and the images that were shown on Amazon, it was a bit misleading, because I realized then that the only images ever shown were the majors, and then they also showed the court cards. And I suppose because I saw the court cards being illustrated, I assumed that the other minors would be as well. So I think this was a bit lazy, and it's a real shame, because the artwork is so beautiful that if the minors had been illustrated to some extent, this could be one of my favorite decks of all time. So anyway, so that was my blind date. Number 4 was the Rebound Date. And so this is the one you keep breaking up with, but keep being pulled back together. Okay, so, and for me, this would be the Chrysalis Tarot by Holly Sierra and Tony Brooks. And I think, I mean, to be honest, I feel that I just haven't been able to use it well. And I think that's partly my fault, because it is a bit of a different system. And I feel that I probably haven't given it enough time. So, I don't know, but I try to read with this and I really get really poor readings. And so I just go, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to use this, or I'm just going to restructure to some sort of oracle deck or something. And then I think about it again, and I think, wow, you know, the images are so beautiful. And so I keep going back to it. And I love how the court cards are very archetypal. And I think, you know what, that could be really deep if I gave it some time. And I mean, look at that. Look at the fox. And so there's no way I could ever get rid of this deck, because the artwork is just the most beautiful artwork I have, I think. It is one of my favorite artistically. I mean, look, it's got brown bears, it's got foxes, like this 8 of spirals is amazing. And I just love it. I absolutely love the artwork. And like, look at this elephant. And it is just so beautiful. And so I keep coming back to it, but then I have really bad readings of it. And I think that's just because I haven't connected with it yet. And as I said, I don't think it's got anything to do with the actual cards, because I think they're actually all really well thought out. And I think it's more me not having given it enough time. And yeah, it's just so beautiful. And I have to show you my, actually, maybe I've come across it already, but it does actually have my favorite Empress card of all time, and which I can't find now. But anyway, never mind. I've probably come across it already. So this is definitely one of those decks, and I think I will have to give it another go, because when I think about it, it is beautiful. And it does actually come with a great book if you get the proper kit. And this book actually does give you so much information on each card. So I think I have to actually sit with it. And instead of just rebounding all the time, I think I actually need to go back to it and go, okay, all right, let's try and really make this work. And yeah, I think I could if I took the time. So yes, so that is my Rebound deck. All right, the number 5 is the Surprise Love Affair Date. So this is the one you thought would just be okay, but from first meeting, it was love at first sight that took you by surprise. And for me, this is an interesting one, because I'd seen these shown on a number of people's channels. And I was initially drawn to them because I love the everyday imagery, and I actually thought that it would add depth to my tarot journey, and that it would help me develop a deeper understanding of different cards, and therefore add depth to my readings. But I didn't actually think that it would be a favorite. I thought it was just going to be something that would be useful to develop my understanding. And I particularly liked the way the court cards were depicted, because I've always kind of struggled with court cards to some extent, and I think a lot of people do. I sometimes read them really easily, and sometimes I kind of really wish I hadn't pulled a court card. And I thought this deck really encapsulated the qualities of each court card very, very well, and I thought it would help me develop my ability to read these effectively. And so when I received this deck, though, oh my god, and this is the Everyday Enchantment Tarot. Yes, and you can see how it is very, very everyday, and how because it depicts everyday images, events, situations, I thought it would really help in terms of my understanding, like different types of conflict there. Look at this, so everyday. And so, but if anyone's watched my channel, like at all pretty much, you will know that this has actually become my all-time favorite deck. It is just so amazing, and it's such an all-rounder, and I use it for any type of reading. I come to it if I feel like I need very down-to-earth advice, but at the same time it has depth if I need something more than that. I love that it shows every type of person, different situations, and yeah, and I don't read for other people, but I think if I did, this would be a fabulous, fabulous deck to use for that. And oh my god, like if I could only have one deck, and I know that's a scary thought, this would have to be it. This would be the deck that I would immediately buy, have to have, and I just could not imagine my life without this one. And so this is a true love affair, and it's a love affair I think that will last forever. It's my forever deck, and I love it. But you can see the court cards. Oh my god, I love this deck so much. So yeah, so that's my surprise love affair date, which surprised me no end. And it just goes to show that you never know how you're really going to react to a deck until it's in your hands. Number 6 was the Not My Type date. The one you went on thinking it wasn't really your cup of tea, but what the hell, what happened? And this is the New Era Elements Tarot. Initially I thought, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to like this, and I was really put off. But then I thought it might give me some extra depth to some of my readings. So this is by Eleanor Piper, and yes, and I've never really liked monochromatic decks, but I have to say that once I got this, I really like the coloration. It works really well, and yes, some of the cards are so hard-hitting, and they are very thoffish in nature, and I mean, wow. Alright, and that isn't my cup of tea either. Like, I've never read thoth decks, I don't understand the system, and so once again, not my cup of tea. But this deck is pretty incredible, and it has a depth that few of my other decks have. And what I find that this is a very global deck. And what I mean by that is I use it to do global readings. So if I want to get the sense of where the world's at. So I use it for New Year's readings, where I will generally have, I'll pick a deck that's a new year reading for me, and then there's a new year reading for the world, and I always use this deck now. And I will always use this deck. I used that beginning of this year, and it was amazing. And I think sometimes it's just incredible. It really sends those deep messages. It shows, it shines light on the things that sometimes we'd prefer not to see. But I'm so glad that I went on this date, because I've learned so much from it. And yeah, it will be a treasured part of my life. So yeah, so that's the New Era Elements Tarot. And that was they're not my type date. But hey, you know what? I still enjoyed the date immensely and will continue meeting. All right, number 7 is I may have to delete your number date. The one that really didn't work, but you still haven't broken up with it yet. What's stopping you? And for me, this is the Dreaming Way Tarot by Rome Choi. Now, I saw this on some people's videos, and I thought this was super charming. And then, I don't know, it came into my hands, and it just didn't vibe with me. And I don't know why it didn't vibe with me in a lot of ways, but put it this way. I split up the cards that I like, don't like, somewhat like. And so these are cards I somewhat like. These are cards I love. And these are the cards that I don't gel with. And for one, I really don't like these sort of clowny outfits. I don't know, they just don't appeal to me. I don't like that some of the cards are kind of very, almost look incomplete. And I know that's part of it. It's giving you that airy feel of the sword suit. Oh, sorry. Yeah, and the artwork's beautiful. The artwork is truly, truly beautiful. But there's something about it that I just haven't connected with yet. And I really don't know why. Apologies, I just had a cough. All right. So yeah, I hate this sun card. This baby is so creepy. But anyway, the artwork's beautiful and it is unique. And there's something about it that I feel like I should like. And I've love the backs. The backs are gorgeous. Love them so much. And I actually made a bag to go with it that matches so beautifully. And part of the reason why I keep it is because I love the backs and I love the bag match. And I trimmed it as well, thinking because it had a white border that maybe that was putting me off. And I find also that by trimming sometimes you can connect to cards a little bit more. And so didn't quite work yet, although I do like it more trimmed. Now, the other reasons I haven't broken up with this deck is there are cards that are quite evocative. So this is beautiful. I love the Seven of Swords. And the Wheel of Fortune is gorgeous. This Five of Cups really draws me in. And maybe that's another reason. It's like some of them are very like everyday outfits, quite modern. But then you have those kind of clowny, balloony things. Like that's quite like a kind of quirky outfit that someone could use day to day. But then what's this, you know? And then that. And I don't know. It's maybe not consistent. I really don't know. And then there's 3 cards I love. The Strength card is beautiful. And the Strength card is my favorite card in the tarot deck. And I love this. This is so gorgeous. I love this Death card. And I love this Justice card. And so, you know, and the Justice is sort of my astrological card. So Yeah, I can't delete its number yet. So I don't know. I'm just gonna hold on to it and see what happens because, oh my God, the strength card is everything. And so yes, I don't know. That is I may have to delete your number, but all right. Number 8 is the Forever Love. So this is the true love, and yes, it's a favorites, right? But it's basically one where you kind of lusted after, and then you went on a date, and you know what? It met all your expectations. And for me, this was the Majestic Earth. This was out of print when I first realized it was out there, and I just lusted after it. I just wanted it so badly, and I kept looking it up on eBay and all sorts of things, and I just couldn't bear to spend the money that was being asked for it. And then JD Hildegard Hinkle released some more on her website, and I was immediately onto that because I thought, wow. And I did get the special edition one because I'm like, you know what? I love this. I've lusted after it. And so that came with all these elemental cards, which are really beautiful. And they can be really good if you want to do an elemental type spread where you can actually lay these out and then put cards on top of them. So that works quite nicely. But basically everything about this deck met my expectations. I mean, the gilding is chipping off a bit, but I think that's because I use it so much. The backs are beautiful. The cardstock is lovely. And it makes that whooshy sound when you shuffle. It's so beautiful. And the images are gorgeous. I love it. I love the keywords. But also I found that I read these very intuitively. And sometimes I don't even look at what card it is. Sometimes I just read it purely on the picture, which surprised me because some of the pictures don't necessarily have a lot happening with them. Like, it's not like there's situations or events or people interacting or anything. But this speaks to me. I thought I'd love it, and I did love it, and I still love it, and I will always love it. And so this is my forever love. It is true love. And yeah, so this one together with my everyday Enchantment Tarot are my loves. And the only difference between them is this one I knew I'd love. The everyday Enchantment I thought I'd just like. And then turned out I loved it. But yeah, this is beautiful. I couldn't imagine my life without this deck. It is gorgeous. And yes, so yes, that is my forever true love. All right, number 9 is the Stormy On and Off date. And so this is the one you can't stay away from. Equal parts passion, lust, and fighting. The one you have to have a break from, but can't stay away from either. And for me, this is the Wizard's Tarot by Barbara Moore and illustrated by Miko Janssens. And this deck is so beautiful. The book is amazing. I really like it. Having said that, I would have liked more of a description of what's going on in the card. Because I would have loved to actually get the popular culture references. Because if it's something I don't recognize, I feel like I'm missing out on it a little bit. And I would have liked to be able to explore it. You know, if it said this was inspired by this particular show, then I'd potentially go back and watch it or something. And I feel that would give me more depth to this deck. But beautiful. Now, the interesting thing about this deck is when I first got it, I thought, wow, okay, yeah, I was a bit disappointed. I actually thought, oh, okay, it's a bit fantasy. And as I said, I was expecting to recognize some of the popular culture references, and I really didn't. And so that kind of put me off. But then I sat down and looked at every single card alongside the book, and I thought, wow, these images are beautiful. And so I kind of fell in love with it. And I thought, wow, cool, you know, and I had a reading of it. It was perfect. And I was like, wow, I'm going to use this deck so much. And then it came out in my weekly rotation, gave me rubbish readings. Just couldn't get anything out of it. And put it away, swapped it out halfway through the week with another deck because I'm like, this is useless. This is trying to get blood from a stone. And how disappointing, right? But then later on in the year, I suddenly thought, you know what? I'm really craving the Wizard's Tarot. Pulled it out, gave me amazing readings. And I just don't know what's up with this deck. It seems to kind of have a bit of an attitude, seems to be a bit moody, and sometimes it loves me, sometimes it hates me, and I feel that I'm responding in the same way. Sometimes love it, sometimes hate it. I love the artwork, absolutely love it, but I wish it gave me more consistent readings, and that's something that I really have an issue with. However, having said that, it's got some of my favorite cards in it too. Like this 8 of Cups is amazing. And this Justice card is one of my all-time favorites because there's no person there. And it talks, you know, about the blind justice in a sense, in a different way. It's the impartial, objective justice without any human lens or feeling. And wow, like what a way to represent that. This is my favorite Wheel of Fortune card. You know, the elemental idea. Like to me, this is an atom. You know, and atoms can reform in so many different ways. And they can be anything and they can change, and it's the intrinsic power of it all. You know, it's the luck of the draw, isn't it? But how beautiful is that? And the 7 of Swords is amazing. It really depicts that element of trying to get away with something. This 8 of Swords is so powerful. The fact that she's holding onto that rope and can let it go. It's 10 of Wands, so beautiful. It's 4 of Pentacles. Represents the meaning of the card so well. This deck is gorgeous. So, yes, I love it. But occasionally I hate it, and occasionally we fight a little bit. But at the same time, it's always going to be a deck that I know I'm going to occasionally want to go back to. So it's in my collection. And then finally, I have the Friends of Benefits Date. And I feel kind of weird pulling this card out, this deck for it, because it feels like, the Friends of Benefits concept does not really go with this deck. But anyway, it's the Angel Tarot cards. And yeah, Angels is Friends of Benefits. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, the reason this one is because this is the deck you can run to without commitment whenever you just have a need for it. It just slots right back in like you've never been apart. And so I initially, this is the Radley Valentine version, but I do have the Doreen Virtue Radley Valentine version, and that's the one I've had for years. And the reason for this is this was the 3rd deck I ever bought. And if anyone's watched my formative deck video, I actually go into quite a lot of depth into how I use this and how important this deck was for me. But ultimately, it was my exclusive reader for a very, very long time. And it was the first deck that I truly became proficient at, and that I got great consistent readings with, and that I just used exclusively. I knew this deck so well, and I still do. Like, it's still very much a part of me. I could use the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meanings, but I could also use it very intuitively. I found also that some of these keywords at the bottom work towards my intuition, where there'd be certain words that would jump out at me, and it so really, really worked. And I don't use that as much now. There were decks that I go to more so than this, heaps of them, that just draw me in a lot more because they've got artwork that appeals to me more, cardstock that appeals to me more. Like this is the sticky glossy, and so it's not as fun to work with. And I'm not a mermaid person, so I don't really like the whole mermaid suit. Love the sword suit of the unicorns. But having said that, I can pull out this deck at any time and it will give me perfect readings. It's that deck that's always been a friend, always will be a friend, and when I need it, it will deliver. And for that reason, it is my Friends with Benefits deck. So yeah, so that's my Dating the Tarot 2020. Now, I had to cheat a little bit because obviously I didn't just pick cards that decks that I'd bought in 2020. For example, this one I've had forever. But the others I all bought in 2020. This is kind of a cheat, but it's also that Friends of Benefits idea. I felt that it had to be something that was a bit dearer to my heart, that it's kind of been an old friend that you can keep going back to. So I did cheat with this one. Anyway, so thanks for watching, even though this video is way overdue. I hope that it was enjoyable, and I shall see you next time. Take care.